2016, and I was working in my first project was Wonder Woman. And so me and Mariel, we started on the same project together, and so we were basically trying to make walk cycles. And so like, and then like we graduated slowly to even better projects, and even we got even better works. And my recent project was Mandalorian. And in Mandalorian, like I got pretty good work, and I think I built a good animation skills in Mandalorian because I received notes from very good people in the industry. So we will quickly go through my demo reel. And okay, okay. So first of all, is it choppy or is it smooth, like the video?
It's a little choppy, but it runs okay.
Okay. Let me quickly share it again. I think there is a setting to make it smoother.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. Yeah. So I think now it will be smoother.
Oh yeah, it's much better.
So yeah, you guys will see most of the shots from Mandalorian. So these are the shots, some of the shots I like worked in Mandalorian, and this is from Star Trek, and we will talk about this one today. It's not that good. I already see the mistakes in this animation, but yeah, I think that's the progress. And still Mandalorian. And this is Fast and Furious 8, and yeah, so yeah, this is my I just recently made this updated this like a couple months ago. And yeah, so yeah, so yeah, so it's now when I'm working on these projects, and we will try to cover this weight and dinosaur animation. And so before we start, like before I start talking about like how I reach and on like working these kind of projects, maybe I'll go through my background a little bit. And so I'm from India, and I am from a very small town. I can say I'm from a farmhouse in India. And my father is a farmer. And when I was a kid, even I used to think that that even I'm going to be a farmer one day, because I really liked spending time in fields. And I really liked the being a farmer. So and slowly, like I in my school days, I didn't even knew that there is something called as animation, that you can be animator. I used to watch a lot of cartoons, and I used to watch a lot of films, Hollywood films. But I had no idea that there is a job in which you can do all those stuff. So by the time I finished my high school, I decided that I'm going to be an animator. And I did research, and I joined a animation school in Delhi. So it was a 3 years program in and I'm sorry, this quick thing. Okay, yeah. So it was a 3 years program, and I tried to learn as much as possible. In the beginning, I thought I'm gonna be a storyboard artist, and then I thought I'm gonna be a modeling artist, and then I changed my mind a lot in those 3 years. So in the end, I decided that I'm gonna be a animator. And so after that, I tried to do some jobs in Delhi. I joined a couple studios, but uh, I was not really liking the kind of work and the kind of environment I was getting there. So I thought that I need to step up. I need to do something so that I can push my skills further. So after so then I made this my first creature animation. This was my first creature animation, which I made. So this is made in 2014. In I finished my graduation in 2013, and I made this animation in 2014. As you guys can see, I was trying to make a scene from King Kong. I found whatever the best rig I can, and I try to make a similar looking shot like King Kong. And yeah, at that time I was quite happy with this shot, and so I love doing that. The so I decided that yeah, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna do a creature animation, and I try to find work in this VFX industry, but uh, I think my work, maybe my work was not up to it, and so I decided to step it up, and I thought maybe I'm just gonna do more studies. So then I took admission in Toronto in Seneca College in animation program. So I did a animation studies in Sheridan College, and then after I'm done studying there, I found a job in Pixomondo. So after that, I started working on all the things which I showed you guys. So yeah, I like, frankly, I like, if I can do it, I think anybody can do good animations. So this this is my hometown, this is my cousin. So it's just farmlands, there's nothing, is far away from city, and I never thought that I will be working in films. And so I think, if I can, anybody can. So yeah, so now I think we will get started on the things which we are going to learn. So yeah, okay. So sorry. Okay, so now maybe I'll quickly go through the my principles of animation, and like, I'm sorry. Okay, like, why I'm saying my principles of animation, and because many of us heard about like 12 principles of animation. I really respect those 12 principles, but I try to think that what are the principles which I use in my daily life, the principles which help me animate faster, animate better, and especially in VFX, like, you have to make realistic animations, and you have to uh, you always try to get better. And like, it's mostly about making realistic animation. So I try to think like, what are the principles which, because I don't always think about scratch and stretch, I don't always think about anticipation when I'm working on VFX shots, realistic shots. So what are the main principles which are leading me to do good animations? So so yeah, I will quickly talk about these five principles. So, like, yeah, my first principle is physics, and we will be trying to cover up the physics part today. So, yeah, so in physics, the first point I mentioned is Newton's laws of physics. I think everybody knows about Newton's laws of physics, and I think that's pretty much it. Like, Newton's laws of physics helped me a lot to understand about weight, and understand about how things move in our world. And uh, and once we understand how things move, or once we understand the laws of physics, and then we can try to understand about anatomy, how our muscles work, how a creature's bone structure is, and how much you can move, and how the weight shifts work. And so once we understand those things, and then we can think about how much squash and stretch need to happen, and how much anticipation and all those things need to happen. Even in a cartoony animation, you still have to understand all these things about weight, about the how the physics work, about how the anatomy of of a character work. And so yeah, it's this is we will try to talk in more detail about the physics. And my second principle is internal physics. So why internal physics? Internal physics is the kind of things which we are experiencing inside, how much a character is, what the character is feeling inside. Because whatever shot you will animate, you have to understand how your character is feeling inside, and that will have to be showed on the screen. You have to show that on that screen, that this is how you're. And if you're working on a film, that your the inside of your character also need to hook up in each shot. So Yeah, so the second thing is internal physics. I put some points like, so what kind of character it is, what are the emotions affecting that character, what are the emotions the character is going through, the insights, and your character comfort, is it uneasy, or like, well, is there anything else affecting your character's personality. And my third principle is workflow. So in every shot I work on, I have to like, I can't just start working in on a shot. Like, first I have to give a really good thought on like, what is my plan, how am I going to execute this shot, so that I don't have to face any troubles. So for example, if I go to my demo reel, so like like, there are, in the end, there are shots where this creature is trying to fight with this guy, a Mandalorian, and so this was a real guy, and this is an animated creature. So I have to figure out how am I going to, you know, uh, work with both of them together. So I have to rotomate this guy, and then I have to animate this guy. So there should be a lot of thought about how you are going to deal with your workflow, because after some point you're going to start receiving notes from your supervisor, and then you have to address those notes, and so your workflow need to be in a condition that you can easily address those notes. And so yeah, it's okay. So we will try to go through the workflow a little bit today. And so my fourth principle is acting choices. So we can put some things like, so whatever actions you are doing, it need to be well thought. The acting your character is doing, it need to be relatable to the story. Like many animations people do, they do all kind of actions, okay, so which are not related to the story. So when you are working for a studio, you have to understand what kind of acting you are doing for that character, so that you don't get in trouble in later. So like about exaggeration and second reaction and appeal, you can put all these things in acting choices. So you have to decide what kind of acting this is up to an artist, what kind of acting choices he's going to make. So I won't be talking about this today. And my last principle is presentation. Like, so I put some like, treating camera as a character, staging, arc, solid drawings. I put these things in presentation, because these are really important things, because in the end you are going to present your animation from a camera, and it need to be uh, artistic. It need to be like the fundamentals of camera and how your arcs and your solid drawings are working, that need to make sense. So you have to think about these also. So I think there are many good artists who can explain you about presentation. But today, so we'll try to uh, understand the physics and maybe a little bit about workflow. So this is the third page. Okay. So now I will try to go through. I will try to explain the Newton's laws of physics. So I put some points here. It's just for me to understand. These are not actually the Newton's laws of physics. So so like, I think everybody know about Newton, and he made some laws about physics, and so we will try to understand that, and so that we can understand what is weight. Uh, so like, the first thing about, if you're thinking about weight, the first thing you have to understand is inertia. What is the inertia of a character? So uh, let's go back into a to the basic fundamental, and now let's try to think. I will just try to draw some things. I have really bad drawing, so I will try to draw some things in a whiteboard to understand the inertia. So let's say if there is a ball in the space. So there is no gravity there in space. It's just a completely vacuum place. There is no gravity. There is nothing, and there is just ball sitting in the space. And so, like, how will you know what's the weight and what's the inertia of this object? Okay, before we go into this, let me explain you guys what is inertia. So Inertia is like how much. In one way, we can say inertia is weight, but like every object in this world, they try to remain in one state. If you leave a cup on your desk, your cup will try to stay on your desk unless you move it. And then when you will try to move your cup from your desk, then it depends on how heavy is your cup. That, your cup will try to resist moving. If it's a heavy cup, it will try to move less. If it's a very light cup, then it will move easily. So inertia is not actually the weight, is the how much your object is resisting to the change. So but yeah, we can also call it as a weight. So inertia, like how will you know that this ball in the space, there's nothing in uh, nothing affecting this ball in the space, and so how will you know what is the inertia of this ball? So like you will not notice unless you will try to push it, or there is a gravity. Let's say there is a sun here, so the sun is trying to pull this ball towards it with its gravity. So, and now there is another ball here which is smaller than this ball. So this ball have a bigger inertia, this ball have a smaller inertia. So this ball will go way faster towards the sun, and ball will go way slower towards the sun. So
Are you guys there? I think we have a bit of freeze.
connection, or is everybody like following the talk? Like,
I think it was just Eddie.
okay, cool. Yeah.
We're all good now.
Okay, cool. So I will continue. So yeah, I think I was talking about inertia. So yeah, so like if there is a so like there is a difference between the inertia of a bus and the inertia of a car. So this dinosaur is like this big dinosaur is like, uh, a bus on 2 feet. And so this is definitely, this is different than a bus because this have way more uh, joints, and it's a very flexible creature. So we will go on that later, but for now we will try to stick to the weight of a bus. So like again, like now let's say your bus is moving. So there's a bus here and there's a car. So let's say my very bad drawing, this is a bus and this is a car. So this bus will take time to move, and the car will move very quickly. So now we have to let's imagine the bus is also moving and the car is also moving, and now their inertia is not the same as before when they were stopped. Now you also have to add the velocity into their inertia. So now this bus have even more inertia, and definitely the car also have even more inertia because we have to add the velocity. Their movement also, they have a weight, and plus they also have movement now. And so like yeah, so like when a bus is moving, it's even more dangerous than a stopped bus. So uh, I hope I'm making sense. So the third thing is 4 is equal to force. That's basically it's just like now your bus is moving and bus have a weight, and to stop that that force. So like if you combine the mass plus velocity, that's force. Now to stop that force, you need equal amount of force to stop it. So uh, we can call this thing as a slow in slow out, which we call in our animation principles. So I will start reading these things. I think it will make it more clear. So inertia, or we can call it mass, of an object should move for a correct reason, because you have to understand about the gravity. If it's moving because of the gravity, if the muscles are trying to move, or if something is pushing the bus, or if something is pushing the dinosaur, it need to move for a correct reason. And so once the mass start moving, it need equal amount of mass, it need equal amount of force to stop it. So let's imagine this bus start moving. So the bus will start moving slowly, and it will catch a speed, and after that, after some point, you have to stop it again. You need the similar kind of ease out to stop the bus. It won't just stop. Because of inertia, it will take the same amount of ease. If the is on the same road, let's say the bus is traveling on the same road, it will need same amount of time and the same amount of force to stop in the similar way. So it is kind of like is ease in ease out thing. So and the third thing is there are different types of inner and outer forces affecting velocity or mass. So gravity is affecting velocity and mass. Air, so if there is air present in the in an environment, so you will know that the feeder will act differently, and a heavy ball will act differently. And if something is pushing it, pulling it, or if the muscles are moving the object. So like, and the fourth point is force affect velocity in different ways. They can move it, they can stop it. Force can cause vibration or waves when it's spread on surface. So yeah, moving and stopping is a different thing. So now, till now I was talking about moving and stopping. A heavier, a bigger thing will, like a bus will take more time to move, it will take more time to stop. The car will take more time to move, less time to move, and less time to stop. We were talking about inertia. So now there's another thing which is called as which I call as vibrational wave. So let's look at this animation. So other than this the moving parts of the body, there is a wave inside the body. If you guys can observe, there is a wave inside the body. As soon as because as soon as the foot hit the ground, a wave is traveling inside the body, and that wave is there is a kind of shake happening in the hand, there's a shake happening in the head. That shake is happening because there's a force entering in the body because the foot is hitting the ground. And because of that wave, there is a wave happening because of that shake, that force entering inside the body from foot. And that shake, that force is causing a wave inside the body. So it like, again, I'll go back here, and we will try to go back to this dinosaur animation, and we will try to revise everything I'm talking. And so yeah, so the force, uh, like, gravity, air, or push and pull, or muscles, they can move a object, they can stop it, or they can cause vibration or waves inside the body. And why am I saying vibration? When your creature is trying to roar, there is a vibration happening inside the body. And that we will talk about when I made a roar animation. When we will try to talk about the roar animation, I will talk about the vibration. So now the last point is anatomy. So organic bodies have very complex inertia because they are binded by anatomy. And so it's important to understand how bodies with bones and muscles work. So like dinosaurs are made of it's made of muscles and bones. So you have to understand how are those muscles and bones working, and how much weight those, each and every part of your dinosaur, how much weight the foot is having, how much weight the head is having. And so for example, this dinosaur here, like, you have to, when this dinosaur is moving his foot, the foot need to move in a way that it has certain amount of weight. And if I play this from the back view, so hips are working in a certain way because the hips are there's a combination of muscles and bones in this area. So because of that, the hips are have to behave in certain way. Now, because of the anatomy, now as soon as the foot is leaving the ground, the dinosaur will try to fall down, and then this foot will take the weight, and because this foot is taking the weight, this side of the body will go up. So we will talk about those things later. And so yeah, these are the principles which I was trying to explain you guys. So my 5 principles, like physics, inner physics, my work, you have to understand about the workflow, you have to understand about the acting choices, you have to understand about the presentation, and in physics you have to understand the inertia. Inertia is, you can call a weight of an object, and when that weight starts moving, it have to move for a correct reason, and it have to move in a correct way, whether it's being moved by the gravity or whether it's moved by the muscles. uh, all those, you have to keep all those things in your mind, that how the gravity is affecting your weight, how the muscles are affecting your weight, and how the push, pull, air, and all other things, all other forces available in our world are affecting the weight. So yeah, so I think I try to explain this as better as possible. So uh, I think maybe we can just quickly take some questions here, so that we can move on to understanding how these things can apply on dinosaurs.
I'll read out some questions for you, Nav. Let's see. Or does anybody have questions? You want to jump on webcam? Ask Nav.
I've got a quick question.
Go ahead, Nate.
So how do you figure out how, because there's a difference between when something has a certain amount of mass,
yeah,
and how strong something is, and so how do you try to figure out the weight when you're taking into mind how strong the creature is? Because there's a certain amount of, like, that's the thing that I struggle with when I'm trying to figure out the mass and like how heavy something is it's not necessarily how much it comes down, but how fast it's going to recover when it's got those muscles involved.
no, yeah, like let's try to thanks, Aaron, for it's a really good question, and I'll try to like answer the best way I can. So let me in the beginning of this video I showed you guys my demoreel. So the first shot, like where this guy is walking, and how much weight this so I made these cycles, and the run cycle and walk cycles.
Hey, Nav, you need to share your screen again.
Oh, sorry. Oh, I'm really sorry. Yeah.
Out of it.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Okay. So I hope you guys can see. So yeah, I was trying to talk about this blurb. So when I was working on these shots, first we have to make these walk cycles and these run cycle for these guys, and so I had to understand. I had to understand how heavy is this guy and how much weight it can carry on itself. So we try to shoot some references for this. So I'll quickly show you guys this reference I shot with one of my colleague. So I just try to so definitely this guy, I don't have that much power as much as a blurb does, right? And I will be a very weak. I'm a very weak blurb, but this blurb is is way more stronger than this. So so that test was a fail. I'm just showing you guys that we try to understand how it works. But in the end, like, you have to, for me, I just have to give a thought. I have to look at all different kind of elephants, how much, because if this creature have big muscles, so definitely I think that creature must be strong. And like, so right now, if you're looking at these dinosaurs, like, yeah, they are strong, but their legs are quite small. So I imagine maybe they won't be, they will be able to run like this, but they won't be able to jump like a kangaroo, because I think that their weight is too much for these legs. So like, I think in the end, like, you have to, for me, I have to give a thought. I have to try different kind of approaches. Maybe I have to uh, like uh, look at different references. Then I have to try and whether it works on that character. And once you know that this is the weight of this character, once I know that this is like a bus on 2 feet, once I know that this then I can look at the bus, like how a bus move and how fast does it move, and how fast does it fall on the ground. So basically a run is just a what is the difference between run and walk? So in run, uh, the body is just trying to throw itself on one foot and then other foot. So here this foot is trying to throw the mass of the body on other foot, and then this foot will carry the mass, and then it will try to throw the same mass on other foot, right? So once we know that this is how strong the feet are, this is how heavy the body is, and this is how the anatomy of your body is working, then you can play around with all those things. And for example, like now, like if it is a walk, in walk, it's not, the body is not throwing itself on 2 feet. In walk is just like a weight shift. The weight will shift on one foot, and then this foot will move and go ahead, and then the weight will shift on that foot. And the walk is different than run. So like I hope this is the this is the correct answer, but I'm not sure if I answered it correctly, but it's just a blind shot. I think you have to kind of do a lot of research, and you have to try to understand. Yeah,
I think that's one of the most difficult parts of it. Is obviously we don't have any real life reference of dinosaurs, so we have to use the closest things we can find in nature to try and replicate something similar.
yeah.
And there's going to be scenarios where in movies or whatever that we exaggerate things that you wouldn't have in an everyday scenario. So like, for example, a gorilla that's 80 foot tall fighting a dinosaur, and trying to figure out the strengths and how they're going to like distribute weight between each other is something that I guess you kind of have to just try and see what feels right, as opposed to getting too close, because there's not really anything out there that you can really reference for that.
Exactly. Like here, for these animations, I had actually I didn't really use any reference for this. I was in the same scenario. Like I try to understand like which reference will work for these guys. Like will an ostrich will work, or what exactly will work for this guy? But in the end, I thought, okay, I'm just gonna try to spend time, and I'll try to understand how I will for this animation. The only thing I try to understand is how the muscles will work. So this is how the muscles will move, and this is how the hips will move. And see, like right now, if anybody will say that the front body will fall down, like this is not a right way to run. There's a huge amount of weight in the front side of the body, but like that's we because we accept it, like this is how the dinosaur must be running. Like, so I thought, okay, so maybe the tail is there to balance it, but this tail is very small for the balancing. But like from inside we want to believe that this is how dinosaur must be running. If I'm trying to go even more realistic, maybe I will not go in this way. Maybe I'll try to move this dinosaur in a different way. But right now I feel that you have to just try to apply the things from all different creatures to this one creature. So frankly, like when I was making this animation, I didn't use any reference. I was just trying to I started from foot animation. I thought, okay, I want to understand how the foot will work. So I was just animating the foot, and I tried. Once I was happy with the foot, then I thought, okay, how will the leg will react, how will the upper body will react with the same foot animation. Then I keep going, and I reach on the front body and the tail and then the head. And then the head, I decided to keep it stable, because most animals they try to keep their head stable. So it's just, I think, for me in dinosaur, that's why I really like dinosaur, because you can explore a lot of your things. You can try exploring, you can play around with the dinosaur and move or do any kind of animation. So yeah, I think Yeah, I agree.
So that does lead into another
Thanks.
question people ask, just about how you find references for, say, like the dinosaur, imaginary creatures, where there is no reference. So you kind of answered it, but how else would you approach it?
Okay, so so uh, for these dinosaur animations, I will try to I will try to think myself as a very big animal. So like I try to imagine that these big creatures, they are in maybe a little bit slow motion than a like the smaller creature. If you see an insect or a lizard, they run really fast. And but the bigger creatures like elephant, they try to run fast, but in the end, like, because they have too much weight. And my first thing which I do, I try to understand how the inertia and how the anatomy will work for that creatures. And for references, then I will try to look for the closest thing possible for this creature. And as I I was showing you guys in my demo reel, uh, for this blurg creature, I made walk cycles and run cycles for this guy. So I try to find what is the closest creature for this guy in this world. A hippo, a like rhino, and an elephant. Like, none of them look like this creature. Like, this was a completely new creature with such a heavy tail. So in the end, like, I had to do all kind of research. I knew that this is how a hippo will move, this is how a rhino will move, this is how a elephant will move. I had all those things in my mind. And then I have to just mix those things. And like, I have to sleep on all those things. And then I try to like, I didn't plan at all, like how it's going to turn out in the end. So I just started with the foot animation, and this is how I want to see the foot. And then I move on to the body, and this is how I want to see the body. It's just a kind of experiment, like, sometimes, like, when you can't find a reference, you have to experiment. So for reference, like, you can find, I find references on like YouTube. And that definitely is a Shutterstock, and like maybe some movies. I, but like, for in VFX, as far as I can tell you with my experience, especially if you're working in TV industry, and this is a TV show, and Star Trek is a TV show, like, you don't really have that much time to sit down and I'm sorry, is everything clear? Okay, yeah. So you don't really have time to sit down and uh, you know find reference, and then you do all those studies. So for me, I have to be ready with all those things in my mind, that this is how they will move. And then I just quickly do something, and I try to show them that that what do you guys think. And then I receive notes, and then I try to even make even more changes in these animations. But yeah, it's I think that's the thing when you're working in a TV. Like, you have to kind of experiment a lot. And but if in movies you have a lot of time, you can try studying a lot of things. But for these things, I didn't really have that much time. And even for these guys, I just went ahead and I tried to I the only thing I thought about when I was making these things are these things which I just talk. These are the only thing which I was thinking in my mind. So that's why I was thinking that these things must be really important for you guys. So yeah, I hope it answers the question. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. Cheers.
Yeah.
Am I
Do
audible?
Hey.
someone has a question?
Yeah, am I audible properly?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so I wanna ask, when you have a specific creature that does not even exist, and you have a specific animation to work on, and within limited time, would you rather work on the trial and error approach, or would you go searching for references? Because in a limited time where you don't have research process amount of work, so would you rather do on trial and error method, or would you rather work on references?
Yeah. So see, like, when I'm animating these, when I animated these creatures, and for me, life just put me in that scenarios that I have to suddenly I have something. And I go in a like kind of a mission mode, that now I have mission to create this thing. And I try to find whatever I can't actually, when I get these kind of things, I can't sleep. even like last night, because I have this webinar, I can't sleep, and I try to sleep, but those things keep going in my mind. So like I think if you have time, you definitely you can't understand all these things without reference. First you have to start with the first you have to start with the reference. You can't just go ahead and start without thinking about reference. For me, I think I missed this part. I had to show you guys. Yeah, so this was my first creature animation. So it's not just that. I made a lot of dinosaur animations. Let me show you guys this. So this is another animation I made. You guys can see this is really messy. It's not good animation at all, like, right? So at some point I was trying to make this kind of animation. So yeah, this is a little bit better, but it's not good. Even this is not good. So it's just all about, I was trying to, this was a good period because at this time I was trying to animate all these dinosaurs, and I was trying to understand how they move. If I wouldn't have practiced all these things, if I wouldn't have done all these animations, then I wouldn't have understood all this, how the body mechanics and how the weight and all these things work. I practiced, and then I got better in time. So there's another animation I tried to do. So yeah, this one I was trying to make this Hulk versus T-Rex fight. So I think it was really unsuccessful. But yeah, I tried to find references, as much references as possible when I was trying to animate this in my school. But like I can't recommend, I can't say that you can just go ahead and start using animating things without reference. You have to go through the finding reference part. See, like I hear this from many animators. They say that I like cartoony animations, but when you look at their animations, it's not like they see cartoony animation is even more. I feel that it's even, first you have to understand how the realistic animation work, and then you have to apply in cartoony animation, you have to apply realistic things, plus you have to also apply the stylistic thing, whatever you are trying to do in that. So many juniors, they think that if they can't make a realistic animation, so they think that they like cartoony animations. But I think that's wrong. They have to understand, it's not cartoony animation, it's just a animation without the body mechanics. So cartoony animation is a realistic animation upon which you apply style. So you know so like I will not say that you go ahead and you go trial and error. I think you have to study all the creatures, and all you have to understand how the body and how the weight work. Once you have good enough practice, then you can go ahead and try playing around with the weight. So I had to explain you guys this thing because this, for me, this is what I learned by understanding all the principles. And so this is I put in front of you guys. So I hope this answers.
Yeah, that was great. Thanks, Nav. Do you want more questions, or do you want to push on with your presentation?
Yeah, I think we can just.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear.
Yeah. Sir, I want to ask that. So I just passed class 12 last year. So I did a 1 year gap to learn digital art and some ZBrush and animations too. Then I finally decided to do animation, and I'll be proceeding with animation mentor this fall. I want to ask you that should I take a bachelor's degree? Because I haven't right after class 12 I just worked on my animation skills and stuff.
Yeah, see, like the thing is that for me, I took bachelor degree, and when I was starting my after completing my school, when I started my bachelor's degree, I didn't even knew that I'm going to do animation. At first I thought that my drawing is good enough, that I'm just going to do drawing. But when I went to my studies, I realized that my drawing is the worst drawing in the class. And then I thought, no, this is not I'm not a drawing guy. Then I thought, okay, let's try this. Let's try modeling. Then I thought, maybe let's try FX, let's try lighting. I went through all those things, and then in the end I thought, okay, the animation is a thing which I really like. So by going through these studies, at least I know, I think for me, I learn everything, and then I realize what I really want to do. And so I think I will be a bad guy if I tell you that you just go ahead and do animation. I think you have to, I consider it as a 3-step animation. First, you have to figure out what you really want to do, and if you think that you are comfortable doing it, and then once you know that you want to do it, then you just throw yourself into it, and you don't look back. First, you take time to understand this is what you want to do, and then you just throw yourself and do as much hard work as you can do. And once you achieve something, then you can think about it. Or like, see, I think I'll be a really bad guy to give a career advice, because I had a lot of failures in my life. So I'm just a guy who just stumble around and reach here. And so I think I'll be a really bad guy, but I hope whatever I said makes sense to you.
Okay.
Yeah, just do what you love, and see, like, try to see what you can, the best thing for you. And like think it realistically. Don't like don't set any example for yourself. Just try to think that what you like doing, and then go ahead and try doing that. And yeah, I think that's what I'll say. Yeah.
So Karim asked, how do you approach a fight shot between two big creatures where you have to mix run and flying cycles and fighting? Pretty much like, I think he's asking, how do you approach it? So how do you block it and plan it? How do you
Okay.
set it up?
Yeah, it's something like a workflow question. So how you're going to plan the workflow of this kind of animation. So actually right now I'm working on I'm trying to make a short film. So all these cycles which I made here, I made for that short film. So in that short film, both of these dinosaurs are going to fight. So like in this January, I went to my farmhouse in India. So these were like the test shots which I did. And like so there's a shot here. I used this shot to make this animation. So like why I'm talking about this thing is yeah, I made these cycles first. I know that these dinosaurs are going to run, and they are going to collide, and they are going to start fighting. So I planned these things, that I'm going to have a 2 run cycles for both of these creatures. And then I'm going to use those run cycles for the initial collision between both of these dinosaurs. And then I'm going to go ahead from there, and I'm going to animate it. So yeah, in this video in ahead, I'm going to talk about how I made this animation. So I'm going to talk how I made this animation. And because in this animation you can see there are 2 creatures, and how I plan this thing. So the best thing I can say is this animation, like, which I made in 2014. This was the hardest animation where I faced this problem, like they are colliding a lot, and I have to plan all those things. I learned a lot doing this animation. I know this is not a good animation, but so yeah, the answer will be like if you can make cycles, flying cycles, or if you can make a run cycle, or whatever cycle you need for that animation, I'll say that go ahead and make those cycles first. And then see where you can place those cycles. Like, I know when you're animating these things, you have to understand how, like the global controller, and like you face a lot of troubles, because once your character move away from the global controller, then you have to place another cycle, and you get into trouble like that. But there's a trick of baking locators on the controllers. Then you can get rid of those things. So there are some tricks. You can follow those tricks, and you can get rid of those troubles. And yeah, so I think I'm really complicating this answer. And
Do you
yeah,
ever
I'll
use
say
like basic shapes, for example, just to block out timing, collision timings, beats, framing, things like that? Do you use step keys or anything?
Oh yeah, I think I don't use step keys. I wish I can. I see many animators using step keys, but it's not that it doesn't work for me. For my brain, at least, it doesn't work. And so I just work in spline first, and then I modify each and every curve. And so yeah, like first, if I'm animating a shot where there's a dragon flying and trying to catch a running dinosaur, and then they are both falling down. So yeah, first I'll be making a fly cycle, and I'll place it where it need to be. I'll place the running dinosaur, and then I'll kind of roughly animate things, and then I'll keep trying to refine it. So I will talk about all these things when I will talk about this animation. So in this animation, I basically started from from a very basic blocking. So this was the first pass of that animation. There's nothing happening in this, right? So this was the first pass, and I didn't even add the second dinosaur at first point. I just knew in my mind that he's going to hold that dinosaur and he's going to throw. I can add it anytime. First, I want to finalize this dinosaur. So till this point, I didn't add, like I was trying to refine the body, and I was thinking that he's going to throw that dinosaur away, and then he's going to roar. So, and after I was happy with that, then I just went ahead and I added that dinosaur, and I just start blocking that this is how I want to see. And then slowly I keep refining, and it keep getting better. So it just, it depends on what kind of shot you are working on, and you have to plan, like you have to think about it, that what works best for you. And then yeah, that's the part of workflow. You have to understand like how you want to execute that animation. Yeah.
That's cool. So David was asking, so when you say you start with the feet, are you specifically talking about contact points, plants, roll-offs, toe splay, and what those look like? Or are you looking at distances and timing of the gait, and the walk and the run to gauge your distance to feel like the push and everything? Get that all correct?
Yeah. Okay. So I'll recommend you guys, like I made a kind of small a YouTube. I was animating when I was animating this guy. I was animating it live, and I started doing this live. So I started this with foot animation. So I know what when you think about contact poses, and like it's kind of complicated, like to plan like how to start. I think the starting is the hardest place. So it's for me to say right now, to explain this thing, is a little bit lengthy question. So yeah, for me, as you guys can see, that the first pose, the foot is on the ground. The foot is about to land on the ground. So I start with a landing pose, so that I know that as soon as the foot will land, he's going to grab the weight of that dinosaur. So the foot will land, and then the dinosaur's weight will fall on that foot, and then that foot will try to throw the weight back to other foot. And so this gives me a nice place to start animation. So I do think about the contact, like it gives me clearer thought of how to understand the weight. And so yeah, like I think I will talk about this animation in detail, so I think you guys will understand more in that part. So yeah, I hope this answers the question.
Yeah, that was great.
Can I ask?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, Yash here. Not sure whether this question is good to ask at this very point, but still. So when you're animating the interactions, the rig is specifically set up to work in one way. For example, spine up. So spine is the root control, while others are the child. But when you're like interacting, the contact points change, and like now suddenly the ones who are parent becomes a child. Like it has to act like a child. So in that case, do you like fake it out by keying each and every frame, or is there a specific trick that you use? That one I wanted to know.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think this question. Yeah, I was planning to explain that, but I'll quickly go through it. So this animation is a good example of the question you asked. So like right now, as you guys can, like, this dinosaur is being dragged from its neck, right? So the main contact, main place where the main contact position for this dinosaur should be its neck, right? So like the dinosaur is driven by the neck, at this place. So you guys can see that there's a big circle here on the neck, and that's the global controller for this dinosaur. So I just basically went ahead and I made the neck as a global controller, like, so that if I need to control this dinosaur, I can just control from the neck. But see, at that point when I was animating this dinosaur, I didn't know about animbot. So in animbot you have very nice tools. You can just uh, modify the pivot points. And so yeah, this is a workflow question, like how you want to execute the thing. Like for example, right now the dinosaur is being dragged. I really had hard time animating this is not a good animation, first of all. I can see there are a lot of mistakes in this animation, but yeah, here I like animating dinosaurs in FK, sorry, in IK. In IK, because in IK you have each and every separate control to each and every body part. So I have a Maya file here. So in this Maya file, like, you guys will see that I animated each and every body part separately. So the hip is not you know hip is not changing the front body. I like animating like this because this gives me more control to change, uh, to edit the body. There are very few keys on the global controller. uh, I didn't even work on the global controller till the end. Only in the end I feel like I needed to add some movements in the overall body of the dinosaur. Then I went ahead and I did some animations in the global controller. But like, even if I move the global controller, you guys see that I don't move the neck of this dinosaur. I like to keep the neck completely separate, because I think the neck is really sensitive part. And the neck is driving the whole body of the dinosaur, is kind of putting the personality in this dinosaur. So I like to keep the neck separate, and I wanted to make this dinosaur really cautious, really aware. So I thought that this neck need to be really flexible. He can control the neck anyhow he want. So yeah, I think this is a workflow question, and you have to plan out how you're going to execute that. So when I was animating this dinosaur, like, I made neck as the global, like, the main point of control. And I was able to rotate the entire body using this part. And then I was animating each and every body part separately. So yeah, I hope this answers your question.
Yeah.
What about if you're moving the dinosaur off the spot when you're doing a run cycle? So would you still animate the hips and the chest separate and not touch the main control? So if it's moving in world space, so you're going to animate, instead of moving the top controller,
Yeah.
you're going to grab the hips and the chest as IK and move it across, rather
like,
than,
if the dinosaur is running, right? You mean, right?
yeah, if it's moving in world space. So you know how there's if it's FK, you can attach it to like a top controller.
Yeah.
And that, like a CAG, and that just controls the dinosaur. But if you have the IK, FK hips independent, do you animate that?
Like,
Off the. Do you animate that forward in world space?
yeah. So if like, let's say if I'm in a situation like I animated this dinosaur where the neck is completely separate, I can't move the neck with this controller. But now suddenly I'm into a situation where I have to uh, move the neck with the body, right? So what I'll do, I'll just go ahead and then I'll bake this neck into a locator, and then I'll switch the neck to the local again, so that the neck can follow this part. and then then in the end I will see that my neck is following, and I'll bake back the animation from the locator to the neck, and I still have the same animation, but now the neck is following the body. But when I'm making this cycle, at that point I don't want my neck to follow, because I need a separate control. I don't want at first when I'm animating the dinosaur, I don't want any movement to to disturb the neck, and I want to just in the end go to the neck and try. I want to refine it. So yeah, so if I want this neck to follow this controller, I can just do it anytime. I can just hold this. I can bake it to a locator, and then I can just reverse the parenting, and then I can change I can tell that I want this neck to follow whatever controller I like, and then I can just bake it back to this controller, the animation. So yeah, I think that will solve that problem. And like for example, now if I talk about this animation, in this animation, these dinosaurs, we can call them dinosaurs. So they are running, and so so in this kind of animation, what I did, I still had them on cycles, and on cycles there were layers, and those layers they were doing all these different things, the same thing which is happening on these. So this there is a cycle on this, but upon that cycle I made some layers, and because of those layers they are kind of roaring and doing all those things. The benefit of working with layers is that you still have all that body mechanics happening. In that cycle you made, that the weight impact happening on the head, on the chest, you still have that thing happening, and now you can add up another layer where your chest is doing whatever the roar, or your mouth or head is doing whatever need to be done. And but below this you still have all those body mechanics. That's why I really like to work with the layers. So yeah, I think the question was like how to if I animated this neck separately, will I be able to move it? So yes, I can always switch it back by using locators, so there's no problem. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good, mate. Cheers.
Cool. I hope it answers. I know like my answers are a little bit they are not 100% exact, but I feel like this.
It's the way you work, right? And you
Yeah.
get the results. So there is no correct way.
Yeah,
This
exactly.
is just another way of doing things.
Yeah. So like
Do you ever break down your animation layers?
yeah, like so yeah, in this animation, like it's everything is separate, but this is not my final animation. In final, I like if I need to use this, I need to export this animation somewhere, then I have to bake this, because if I need to, you can use a studio library, and there are other different things you can do to export this animations. So this layers doesn't support those kind of things really nicely. So, and it's quite complicated to export or 3 layers with your animation. So I like to keep it simple as well. So when I'm exporting this animation, I will just bake it and I'll export it. Yeah, I do bake in the end. Yes.
Yeah, thanks.
Do you want more questions? I'll throw a few.
Yeah, if somebody have question, or we can just get started and we'll take it later.
Yeah, how about we push on, and then I'll let the questions come in, and then I'll ask you again after.
Okay, cool.
10 minutes is on.
Yeah. So again, I'll revise quickly. So about the weight, how I think about weight. So I have these 5 principles. It's not like the core 5 principles which I always follow, but I try to put my thoughts into this paper. So this is what I on my YouTube channel, I made a video of my 5 principles. These are updated version of those 5 principles. And yeah, and so for in the end, the physics, we have inertia. We have to understand how much the inertia is the body is having. And when that inertia is moving, you need the equal amount of inertia to stop it. that inertia, you need to handle that inertia. It's like a, kind of a jiggle. You have a jiggling body, and you have to, you have to deal with that inertia. And when it's about, dinosaurs and, organic creatures, then it's get even more complicated, because there are bones, there are muscles impacting the body of your creature, and upon that, altogether there's a weight, there's an inertia, and then you also add up velocity, and then everything together is trying to fall down on the ground because of gravity, but your legs are keeping you up on the ground standing. And upon that, you have different kind of inner feelings, and you have inside thoughts, and like, so you have to deal with this complex structure in the weight. At least that's how I think. So yeah, it's I was trying to quickly revise these things. So inertia, or mass of the body, should move for a correct reason, and once the mass is moving, it need equal amount of mass to stop it. Like, in other words, ease in, ease out. This is a easy way to say. And so there are different type of inner and outer forces which are moving the inertia: gravity, air, push pull, muscles. And so forces affect velocity in different ways. And so they can either move it, stop it, or they can cause vibration, or like, the jiggles happening in the body. There's a waves coming in the body when the dinosaur is running. Even when the humans are running, when we step on the ground, there's a kind of shake in the body. So about all those things, and so the body react in a different way on when the forces are affecting our body. So in the end, our bodies have organic bodies have complex inertia, because they have different body parts. So yeah, now let's just get started with this animation. And so yeah, this I think it's better to let's just quickly watch it, and then we will look at this animation from the side view and the front view, and we'll try to understand what's happening. So yeah, and so this is the side view. I think it'll be better to understand from this instead of checking it in Maya. So yeah, as I was talking even before, like in a run, when a dinosaur, when any other creature is running, so what exactly is happening, especially with a two-leg creature? With four-leg creature, is it a completely different story? But with the two-leg creatures like this, I try to apply the same idea as a guy, like running, a man running, a heavy man or heavy two-leg creature running. So what is happening here is that this leg is trying to push the body up, and then the body is falling down on other legs. It's just a ball. It's like a very flexible ball bouncing from one foot to another, and the foot, they are just trying to they're trying to push that mass, and then throwing on other foot, and then other foot is carrying that mass and throwing on other foot again. So if we observe closely, what's happening is that this the weight of the body is falling on this foot. Right now this foot is straight, and as soon as the weight will fall down on this foot, uh, I like to keep this part of the leg like more in control, because this have a very big muscle, and I like to move this part, like when the weight will fall on the leg, like some parts need to cushion, right? Like when some part need to cushion to carry the weight. So I don't want to see too many you know too many movements in this part of the leg, because this part have more muscles. So I like to keep a lot of movement in this part of the leg. So as soon as the body will fall down on the leg, I will bend this part to show
The
that
fetlock.
I'm sorry.
Isn't that called the fetlock, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's yeah, exactly. So like if I go to this Maya file, what I did last time, I'll quickly go and select the geometry of this dinosaur, and I think you guys will understand. I have Animbot. In Animbot, you can track each and every point. Man, I don't know what's happening with my Maya today. Okay, there. And I'll just select one point and I'll try to track it. And I think I work on a laptop at home, so it's not that super fast, and it's it just gets stuff done. So I think this will take a little bit of time. We'll just go back and talk about this thing. So yeah, I try to keep. Actually, what's happening here is okay. When after this point, this part of the leg is kind of in control. As soon as the leg is in air, this part of the leg is trying to bring back the foot in like bring back the foot in front, and even at this point, this part of the leg is trying to push the body forward, and this part of the leg is just taking all the toll, and is getting down, and getting stretched. So I think should be done by now. Okay, so yeah, it's what I'm trying to say here is let's just start again from the foot, and what is happening in the foot is just staying on the ground and like taking the cushion. If I had more control to bend, to add kind of mass, or like expression to the foot, I would do, but I didn't had it, so I tried to do something with the fingers, which is not visible from this angle. So and as when the foot is reached at this point, the foot will try to push the body up, as you guys can see, like here the foot is trying to push the body up, and then the body will fall down on other foot. So it's just like taking the weight on one foot and again throwing it back to other foot, and that's what I was trying to do here. And oh man, it's still taking time. Okay, so yeah, and like like in humans, like when we land on one foot, our foot doesn't bend, like at this point, like the dinosaur is easy to animate this part, because we can bend, like we have a lot of room here. I can always bend this part, and I can show the weight on this part. But in humans, like when we are walking, if I'm putting my weight on one leg, that leg will get locked on completely straight, and so that because we don't bend like them. So and until we are ready to throw our weight on other leg, we bend a little bit, and then we push our body to other foot. And so we don't have to worry about, I didn't have to worry about keeping the leg straight or anything. I need to add a cushion in the leg to show that there's a weight falling. So I use this part of the body to add the cushion. So as you guys can see, like as soon as it's falling down, and I try to keep this part of the body as stable as possible, because I want to show that there is a weight in this part. So I don't want I didn't want to see small jitters happening in this part. It's very easy to see jitters happening in this part of the leg, and so I try to avoid it. So yeah, here we can see. So if we try to observe this, this is the path of this leg. So it's kind of it's kind of very smooth. Like there are some points where you see a little bit bends, but I try to minimize it as much as possible. And there is a sharp edge here. It's just because that as soon as it reach at this point, the foot left the ground, and now the foot is trying to fall down again. I mean, the leg is trying to relax again. So but I try to keep this part as stable as possible, to keep it weighty, to keep my leg that there is a weight. If it start moving, if you start seeing shakes in the this part, like, then I think it kills the weight a little bit. You see that you want to feel that this part have weight. So because of weight, because of inertia, it won't be able to move anywhere it want. That inertia will take time to move, right? So and this part is taking all the toll, and as soon as the dinosaur is falling on this foot, this part is bending and taking all the weight. And so yeah, and that's the main thing about foot. And yeah, and I already talked that as soon as we reach at this point, this foot is just throwing the weight on this leg, and then again that foot is doing the same thing. And yeah, there is another thing to consider, is that how much airtime do I want in a dinosaur. Like, so in this animation, we have only one frame of airtime. So here this foot is leaving the ground, and as soon as this foot is leaving the ground, this foot is the dinosaur is landing on this foot. So if I increase the airtime, it will make the body lighter. So I had to make a choice that how much airtime do I want. So I decided to give a zero airtime, because I want to keep it weighty. And if it is a walk, in walk there is no airtime. In walk is in fact in a walk it's not even there's no, the foot is not throwing this weight. It's not the same thing happening in the walk. Right now this foot is trying to throw this weight on other foot. In walk it's just, this weight will shift. uh, the weight will shift on one side, and then this foot will have time to go ahead, go forward. And then when this foot will take the weight, and then this foot will have time to go forward. So we have more time in a walk cycle. So but in a run cycle we had to make it we have to make a decision how much air time do we want. You can go ahead and experiment even more. So but I decided that I'm not going to give any air time. So yeah, that's I think that's the biggest point about the legs. And so yeah, now we can move on to the body. Like if you guys have any other points to if you guys want to ask me more things about foot, you can always ask me. Yeah, there's one question which somebody asked me in my live video, that like, do I use a foot roll at this point? Or like, I think it's a very good question. Like so like I'm sure like many of you guys must be thinking, like, do I use a foot roll here? So I don't really think about foot roll and all those things. I just think about, this is what I want. I just think in my mind that this is what I want to see in the foot animation of this dinosaur. And then I try to bring that thing to the animation, whether I have to use foot roll. Sometimes foot roll doesn't work the best, so I just use the fingers animation. I just go ahead and animate frame by frame. So like, it just, you have to be ready to do whatever kind of animation you need. The main thing is you need to be in your mind at what you want to see in the foot. And so yeah, now we'll move on to the body. And so yeah, in the hips, it's just very simple. The hips are not, there are not there are big movements happening, but there are no sudden movements happening in the hip. So like, yeah, the hips are just going up when the foot is trying to push the body up and forward. And then as soon as the foot is done, and as soon as the foot is done pushing, the gravity will try to pull it down. So as soon as this body is starting to go down, this foot is coming in action, and this is holding the weight of the body. If we see from the back view, I think we'll understand more. So yeah, it's just like the body is trying to fall down, but the both feet are coming, taking turns to support the weight and throwing the weight back up and catching again. So that's the main thing. That's the only thing happening in the body. And the other thing is that you guys will see there's a good amount of roll here in this part. And when the weight is on this foot, there's a good amount of roll here. See, this thing doesn't have to happen in a cartoon animation, because it's a different style. Like you can play around with this roll, that how much you want. Maybe I've seen in cartoon animation, there are, in this kind of scenario, that even this kind of thing happening. But I like to keep it like, if there is a weight on this leg, if this leg is holding the weight, I like to keep the weight focused on this part, so this part will go up. The same thing which we see in lions and those kind of creatures, that when they put their foot down, and you see a lot of movement in their shoulders. So that same thing we are seeing here. And it's just I'm trying to show that there is a weight in this part, and this part is trying to take the weight of entire body. And yeah, so let's move on to this part again. Yeah, now this part of the body is quite simple, and the hips are quite simple. It's just the weight shifting and weight falling from one leg to another leg. And now we'll move on to this part. And this part is a little bit tricky, because actually like this part, there is a follow through happening on this part. But it's not just follow through, it's also there are muscles inside the body, right? it's not like a simple mechanical part which is just doing this thing. Yeah, that thing have to happen because there is a wave traveling inside the body. You will see a kind of wave happening in the body, but upon that there is also muscles inside the body. You also have to think about muscles. So the muscles will try to resist the wave. The muscle will try to move on its own way. So yeah, here there is a kind of minimal amount of up and down happening. You are seeing more up and down in the back part and less up and down in the front part, just because the front part is have muscles and is trying to keep the body stable. And so and upon that there is a kind of you are seeing a follow through happening in the body. I think we'll see better from the front. Yeah, yeah, here there is a follow through happening in the front body. And see, the hardest thing to bring here is that as the weight is shifting, like there is the when I was mentioning, when I was trying to explain you guys about the principle about the laws of physics, I was telling you about that the the forces can either move the body, stop it, or cause waves inside the body. So right now, especially in the first part, you guys are seeing that there is a kind of very organic move happening in the body, and that is happening because of the weight traveling. There are waves traveling inside the body. As soon as the foot is hitting the ground, that impact of the foot hitting the ground is causing waves, which are those waves are traveling inside the body. And because of those waves traveling inside the body, we are seeing all kind of jiggles and all kind of movements happening in the body. I use the shoulder control to add all kind of to enhance the jiggles happening in the front body. And I also added a lot of jiggles in the front, the main controller. And yeah, so the main part about this body is just you have to make sure that there is enough control in that. It's not is I try to keep the up and down very less. And I try to give more control to this part, and at the same time I try to work with the jiggles and the waves traveling through the body. And now let's just move on to the neck. So the neck was, I think, for me, animating this dinosaur, the neck was the hardest part. And I have to decide, like, how much the wave is trying to there is a wave traveling inside the body, and how much wave is reaching the neck. How much stable do I have to keep the neck? So yeah, I decided in the end, I just decided to keep a very minimalistic follow through happening in the neck. And the neck is trying to do its own thing. The neck is trying to keep itself, the head is trying to keep itself stable. And I had many this extra controllers on the neck. If I show you guys the file, yeah, I had these extra controllers here. And I took advantage of all the controllers, and I try to add any extra jiggle I can add in the body. And even more than this, there are even more like, let me show you guys. Yeah, so I had even these controllers. So I took advantage of each and everything, and I tried to add as much jiggle as possible. I tried to polish the skin of the dinosaur as much as possible. As I was trying to explain you guys before, that the force can travel inside the body in wave or in vibration. So you will see a lot of vibration happening in the body. And like, you are seeing a lot of flash movement here. So I took advantage of this controller here, and I try to make it look like as if it is a flash, like it's kind of skin, a lot of skin moving. So when the leg is coming nearby, the skin is getting moved. And as soon as the leg is moving away, you will see a kind of vibration happening in that part. So yeah, so I'll go back to that. Okay, yeah, so yeah, I try to keep the neck very stable. And and I try to bring back the very subtle kind of follow through happening in the neck. And then in most animation, if you see the Jurassic World or Jurassic Park films and many animations, animators try to keep the tail really, really floaty. So I'm not really a big fan of that. I want to make that tail really stiff, as if the tail is trying to balance the front body. So what I was trying to do here, I was trying to just, as soon as the body is falling down, the tail is also falling down, trying to balance out this fall. So it's just I use it as a body part which is trying to, if the front body is falling down, the backboard, the tail is also falling down, so that the dinosaur won't fall down in the front. So yeah, I think that's the main thing. And if we talk about the hands are just, the same thing. There is a follow through happening in the hand, there's a wave traveling through the hands, but at the same time hands have muscles. Those muscles have to move in some way. So I was trying to keep the hands as a alive hands, but at the same time there's a wave traveling through the hands. So yeah, it's like I hope it makes sense whatever I'm talking here. We can quickly go through the top view. There's not much happening in the top view other than, just the dinosaur is trying to keep himself going in one direction. And yeah, I think I hope like this makes sense whatever I'm saying about this. See, whatever I'm saying is just my observation, it's just my way of thinking. I'm not, it might not, I might be wrong, but it's just, it's a it's my way of it's my perspective of, how I animate dinosaur. And so yeah, and now we can just move on to quick to this Spinosaurus. Is the same concept, but it's a different creature. It's the kind of same thing happening, but I took some things a little bit differently. And because of the spine, this huge spine, not much movement can happen in this part. It's a different kind of inertia. So I try to work with I have the play blast for the Spinosaurus as well. Yeah, I think the IRX have had more flexible body than this Spinosaurus, because it doesn't have to deal with the, it has different kind of inertia, it has different kind of body structure. And in fact, I think this is a water creature, so it need to I think this so I try to do whatever best I can do. I still feel that I can still go ahead and I can keep working on this, but I had to stop at some point, so I thought this is a good time to stop. So it's the same thing in this run cycle. Also, is the same thing happening. It's just the same things happening in the body. The same. This part is taking the cushion of the steps, and it's the same thing which I just talk. And the body is trying to keep it balanced, and the front body is trying to deal with the muscles as well as the wave which is traveling through the body. And now I think I explained enough about these, and now maybe I'll explain more in the questions. We can go to this animation. I mean, yeah. So I can go through from the first pass. I just choose the main versions of the files to explain you guys the process. And so it's just when I was trying to make this thing, actually the reason I was trying to make this animation, I want to make a nice roar. I wanted to understand how to make a roar animation. So yeah, it's so I had to figure out like how the roar work. And so like, and I thought maybe just the roar will not be enough, so I thought maybe I'll add some extra things upon roar. So I planned that this dinosaur is going to throw away the other dinosaur, and then he will start roaring. So the main reason for me to animate this shot was I was trying to study that how the roar will work. I was trying to experiment that how to make a nice roar, and I think I was quite happy with this roar. And it was kind of a good learning part for me to make a nice roar. So in this video, I think sorry, in this part I can share the how did I make this roar. So I'll quickly go through the passes, different passes. So yeah, so this was my planning of first pass. I thought, okay, this is what I want to see. And then in second pass, I refined it a little bit. I tried to see I tried to bring back those things which I just talk in the body and in the foot. And and in this third part is just even more refinement. And yeah, in this part you're seeing the little bit of tail animation, and I kind of figured out in this part that I want to keep this camera angle, and this is what I want to see in the body. And I thought, okay, now this is a good time to bring the other dinosaur, and I just bring this and I just added in this scene. Okay, I just turn on the controllers in this animation just so that you guys can see that how the controllers are moving. So this dinosaurs, the IREX at this point just had the the IK controllers. So because of the IK, I was able to control this body part separately, this body part separately. Even the tail, I was trying to keep it IK, and even the neck, I was trying to keep IK so that I can. And upon that, I kept the global controller at this point so that I can control the entire body, separately, like so. Yeah. And then I just even more refinement. I'm just keep working on both things. I just added some secondary movements. Here you guys can see he's trying to grab the neck properly, and he's throwing him away, and I'm just trying to figure out those secondary things. And then I try to add some more secondary things in this dinosaur, that is the foot, he's trying to balance himself with the foot. So just experimenting and trying different things in the animation. As I was not using reference, this was just a experimental animation. I was trying to create something from my I wanted to see what I can do. So yeah, it's and the last part is yeah. So now let's talk about the roar. I think the roar is the roar took the most time for me to because the main reason for this animation was roar, and how I dealt with roar. So actually, what is a roar? Like, how to explain what is a roar? Roar is just a for me, roar is just dinosaur is trying to speak. Dinosaur is just trying to uh, just like creating a voice, but he's creating that voice with a very huge intensity. And like, we have to again understand how it's happening. So to roar, first dinosaur have to hold a lot of air inside his lungs, and when he's holding air inside the lungs, and then that air is coming out, and the air is causing vibration inside the chest, inside the neck. And because of that vibration, I'm not sure where is the sound part in this dinosaur, and it must be somewhere in the neck. So because of that vibration in the neck, that sound is coming out. So I wanted to make it feel like that thing is happening. So I should play this animation. So yeah, so I made sure that the roar is not coming from his mouth. The roar should be coming from the tummy, where the air, he's holding the air from his chest. So I made sure that he's breathing here. You guys can see he's breathing at this point. He's breathing, and then that air is coming out, and we will see the vibration inside the chest. There is a vibration happening in this part, and then the neck was a little bit up. Right before he start roaring, the neck was up. So he had to stretch his neck entirely so that the air can come straight out from his mouth, and the vibration is traveling from the chest to the mouth. And so I try to what I try to do here is I try to make sure that it's not just a mouth opening and sound coming. I try to make sure that the sound is coming for a reason. And for that, I try to study how all different lions, and how a lion is roaring, how all other animals are roaring, and how their body is reacting to when they roar. And I try to bring back the same principles in this part. So yeah, so it's just the air. First, the dinosaur is trying to breathe in the air. He's holding the air, and then the air is coming out with the pressure, and that pressure is causing the vibrations inside the neck, inside the body. Even you are feeling that roar in the back of the body as well. I try to add, as you guys can see, I try to add some some vibration in the back of the body as well, so that we can feel whatever is happening inside from the mouth. We need to feel the thing happening on other parts of the body as well. So yeah, so I think, and yeah, when he was roaring, I tried to keep the head really heavy, so there's not much movement happening in the head is just coming and opening. Like if you're talking about the head animation is really simple. It's just a head coming in front and opening up, but more importantly is the other smaller things happening. The reason why he's opening the head, that thing was more important, and I tried to execute that part. And yeah, so I think that's all what I had to say about this part. And I think, hey Eddie, I think we can take questions from here.
Sure, no worries. That was great. Thanks, mate.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah.
Karim asked, how long did it take for you to make this shot?
So this shot, I was just making. Sometimes I was working for half hour. I was just working after my work every day, and sometimes I was working for half hour. Sometimes I was working for 1 hour, and sometimes I was not working at all. So like it took me around 3 months to do this shot from starting to end. But there were some weeks I didn't even work, and sometimes I just sit on weekend. I try to put more time on weekends, like maybe 4 or 5 hours. I can say in total it took me around 30 to 40 hours to make the shot. And again, like this shot was not, I was not trying to present this shot to somebody. It was just for my own understanding. It was my own study. I was trying to understand how the roar works. Actually, if you guys see the Mandalorian, in Mandalorian there is a that rhino creature. It's called I forgot the name. It's it's a very so there's a shot, the rhino is coming out, and he's roaring. The roar is so intense. So I was really fascinated with that shot. So I was like kind of thinking that I need to understand how they made that part. And so that's the reason I started this shot. I need to study. I was trying to understand how the roar works. So I just went ahead and I studied all different creatures, and yeah, and in the end this was the end result. And yeah, I think yeah, well, like
Yeah,
it took me like 40 hours. Yeah.
Okay, yep. And let's see. Connor asks, do you ever look at dinosaur fossil references to understand the possible range of motion? And I answered him in the chat with, it's just, you're mainly limited by the rig, but what are your thoughts?
I'm sorry, do you mind repeating again? I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, no worries.
Yeah.
So Connor asked if you ever look at dinosaur fossils to understand the range of motion that they have. So pretty much anatomy. So you're looking at bones and just seeing, the range of motion, how far their legs or their wings or their tail can move based on anatomy and bones.
Yeah, at this point I have to say no. Like when I was trying to say anatomy, we have to understand the anatomy of creature. It's just like I I didn't understand any. I didn't go ahead and I tried to study that how dinosaurs move, unless I'm working for National Geography, where they're trying to present how they were, like the real dinosaur, how they were. But no, I was just trying to make good animation. So I just went ahead and I took my my independence, and I tried to make every movements good in every way. And no, I didn't study anything. I just what I'm talking about anatomy is, you have to understand that there are muscles inside the body, and it's not just a mechanical object moving. So those muscles will react in certain way. Those muscles will bring a kind of wave inside the body. So like what I was trying to say, there is an organic body, and you have to understand how organic bodies work. And you might have to go ahead and say look at the anatomy, but not I didn't look I didn't study any anatomy for dinosaurs. Yeah.
Yeah, and I
Oh,
was also saying to Connor that it's just whatever rig you get, like proportions and an anatomy could be different from the say you get a T-Rex that's rigged up for Jurassic World. It's going to be different to a T-Rex that they dig up in real life. So the proportions will be a little different. So really, you just got to play around with the rig, do
yeah,
your
yeah.
test animations, and just get it from that.
Yeah, exactly. Like this Spinosaurus, I think this was a water creature, and I post on my Instagram, and like there are some guys fighting that who will win in comments, and so they're trying to decide, like so some people are saying that the Spinosaurus will win if the Irex is in water. So yeah, it's just I'm just trying to have fun animating. So yeah, it's just up to you. Like if you want to make it even more realistic, then you can study the. But yeah, for me, I just want to make a nice animation. Yeah.
And let's see, any suggestions on? Actually, I'll ask this one. There's a camera question. So when you do your zoom in and out in this shot, do you translate in and out, or do you play with the lens, or both?
No, I just play with the lens. Yeah, I think translation is really tricky. So like when animating a camera, I just you know I really try to keep the translation stable, and I do play with the rotations, but yeah, it was just a zoom in and zoom out. It's just the lens or focal length. Yeah.
Any suggestions on or key points to remember while making a demo reel?
Uh, about the demoreel, I think Eddie, like I think way better than me, but I think maybe you can also add some points. But for me, I want to. I'm still working on some things. I want to make some real animation, like I want to make some actual, like I try to make. I'm still learning on how to make like lions and all these kind of animations. I do, and like it's just you have to keep working on the things you want to do. For me, I want to do like dinosaurs and this kind of creatures, so that's why I'm working on these things. And like it's just like for me, I'll say that I like to I work on the things which I want to animate in my career. And so, but that, Eddie, what do you think?
I always tell everyone to work on human body mechanics first.
Yeah.
That is just a bit more simpler to wrap your head around, and we have a lot of real world references. So I get everyone onto that, and then onto creature body mechanics, because a lot of times people want to animate quadrupeds with more limbs, bit more study with references. Um, and those two kind of shots fill out your reel really nice. And then, like you were saying earlier, then you can build on the stylistic stuff under that. You can do performances. I also like to get everyone to learn a bit of film language in their demo reel shots. So when I say film language, make the shots a bit more cinematic, have nice camera moves, interesting camera moves. Also, just fill up your shots and present it nicely. So, say a shot like you have here, the Spinosaurus. I would get animators to fill out some of the foreground, some of the background, just to learn how to present a shot, so it looks a little bit more finished.
Yeah.
That's my thoughts
Exactly.
on demo reels.
Exactly. Yeah.
Let's see, another question for you. When animating the raw, is the body reacting to the neck movements, or is it the other way around?
Oh yeah, I think that's quite tricky. And the neck, I think is in the both way. Like if you see most of the animals, they try to keep their neck stable. uh, I, I think maybe because they don't want their brains to jiggle too much. So I don't know, but yeah, most of the animals, they try to keep their head as stable as possible. and keep their eyes locked. And so I had to in this animation I had to yeah, I was trying. It's a both way. It's both ways. I think. First, I have to represent that whatever the wave is, wave that we are seeing in the body, that wave is reaching the head as well, and at the same time, head is leading the body. So it's both ways. So yeah, I think that's the answer.
Does anyone else have any more questions for Nav? Webcam, the mic. I think we'll wrap you up in say 1:30 or my time 1:30. So in another 8 minutes. So if you have more questions, everyone, and I think there's someone there for you.
A general advice for freshers would be
I'm guessing advice for animators who are trying to break into the industry.
Okay.
yes, for entering the industry.
For me, I like I consider myself still I have around around 5 years of overall experience. I'll say, but I still consider myself as a fresher. So I think I think just keep polishing your work, and I take it as a 3-step process. Like first, I think that I is a first decide what you want to do, and like once like you want to do this thing, and then just throw yourself in and do everything possible, do whatever you can to understand everything about that part, and then see what's the result. I think that's the thing I will say. What do you think, Eddie?
Thank you.
Sorry, I think I muted myself.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I was sorry. I missed that because I was trying to answer questions from the chat box at the same time. I'm going to read out another question for you.
Okay.
Kind of asks, so with birds coming from dinosaurs, have you ever considered trying to animate the way birds bob their heads in a dinosaur?
You mean the flying creatures?
With I guess with like your T-Rex run, your Indominus Rex run, because when we animate dinosaurs, a lot of times, well, pretty much every time, the body's doing a movement, and the head is still, right? Kind of like a lion or a tiger.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like moving around like that. And I think he's asking if you ever considered bobbing their head, kind of like birds, like a chicken.
I think it's if you see my old animations, I think I like I tried to do something like that, and it looks really bad. And in this one, like this is a really bad animation, and there's a lot of movements happening in the head, and it's really bad animation. There was a point I was trying to do all those things, and here you guys can see there's nothing good in this about this animation, and yeah, so I tried doing some something like more movement, but I think I feel that that's not realistic to weight, and that's not realistic to creatures how they move. And yeah, maybe when I was trying to do these things, I was not doing it in a correct way. Maybe there might be a correct way to do that kind of animation, but no, I never tried anything like that. Yeah, like I tried, but it didn't work. Yeah.
Yeah, it feels less predatory. That's why we kind of mimic large cats, like again lions or tigers.
Yeah.
So when they run and hunt, which we feel like dinosaurs do, carnivores, their head remains still and the body kind of adjusts around it. So you're moving the chest and the hips as the head remains still to focus on their prey.
Yeah.
I do have one question.
Go ahead.
Please go ahead.
I wanted to ask, have you always been trying to animate these like land creatures or and imaginative creatures? Because our teacher keeps showing us your work, and it's always been like that Hulk versus dinosaur fight and like land creatures. And I don't think I've seen much human animation of yours, rather than the like the creature animation, and I haven't seen the flying animation too, but I've seen a lot of dinosaurs. I've seen the Hulk one. So do you ever like explore into the other areas, or do you just like stuck on creatures like this?
Yeah, so like I quickly share my screen again. Okay. So yeah, I do in my work at my work I do that kind of animation. I do a lot of running and creature animations, like especially humans. Like in VFX, you have to animate a lot of humans. Like but I'm not like fascinated by it's just my interest. I like to I come home and I still try to animate dinosaurs, and I spend time doing this kind of stuff. But now I'm feeling that I need to put out some like tiger and some rhino or elephant animals. Like I need to try that as well, like for super realistic stuff. And but yeah, at work I did some part, but and maybe I'll share in my, if you have if you are on my YouTube, maybe I'll try something like that. But I always, at my work, the main thing is animating humans and doing that kind of I always do that. But I just come back home and I try to do what I love. And yeah, so I think, but it's really important to animate humans and other creatures. This I'm not sure, like, when will you get a job, when will I get a job where I'm only going to animate dinosaurs. I think never. Like I will always have to animate like realistic creatures, like lions and all that kind of stuff. And I'm good at I think I tried many times, and I'm okay. I can do it. I'm good at it. But I need to do for personal. I still need to do for my personal reel and stuff. So yeah, I think that's really important for you guys also. Like I think that's a priority. Instead of animating a dinosaur, animating those kind of creatures like human creatures and lions and other creatures, I think that's more priority than animating dinosaurs.
All right.
Yeah, I agree. I think you animate what you want to work on. You focus what you want to work on for the next 20 years. Like if you, obviously you love dinosaurs and you can see yourself animating that for the next 20, 30 years if you have to. And you're pretty much doing what it takes to get some dinosaur work if you can. And there's plenty of that, or large creatures or something similar. So really animate to what you want to do and not what you think studios or recruiters want you to do, or what you think they want you to do. Just animate what you love, and that's going to show in your shots, in the results.
Yeah, like yeah, even for me, like I'm why I'm coming back and working on these dinosaurs, because I'm trying to set a brand for myself. Like I'm a dinosaur animator, so that in future, maybe like if I'll animate even more dinosaurs, because I like them, animating them, and I'm just trying to understand them even more. So I'm just trying to make myself a like a professional of animating dinosaurs. But I'm not saying that I can do this without understanding tigers and all those humans. I have to understand that first. Like only then I can do that. So I tried animating all those things, and in the end I decided I want to do that. But now I think I'm going to take a break from dinosaurs, and I will go and I will do some more realistic lions or elephant and that kind of animations. Yeah.
So you mean like there's no jumping to that thing? You have to go step by step.
I think so. Like I think you have to start from the basic. You have to start from the ground zero. Like you have to start from the humans. I think humans are like you are going to animate humans for the most of the time, and you have to understand how humans move. And I think that's the most hardest animation to animate humans. And then then you step on to creatures, how creatures move. And because there will be more creature films than dinosaur films. And so you will get more work if you clear up all these things. And in the end, like if you want to animate dinosaurs, you can just go ahead and you can keep working on it. At least that's what I think. And but you have to know about main things which you're going to animate in your life. I think that's humans and the most common creatures we see on TV. Yeah.
So maybe we'll take one more question and then we'll wrap it up, and we'll let you go.
Yes, I have a question.
Go ahead, Nate.
I don't know how to speak English very much, but I'm learning to become more familiar with people from distant lands. Well, whatever. I have been in the animation area for about 1 year, and I would like to know what you guys recommend me to be able to develop speed and fluency when animating.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I think for me, I will just share my experience. Eddie knows this answer even more professional way, because he's a really experienced person. He worked in a very great places, and he's teaching so many students. And so I think Eddie will give you the correct answer. But from my experience as a person with 5 years of experience, I will say that for me, I just did, like when I started this thing, I try to understand everything about I try to polish my work as much as possible. I try to understand what do I lack in my work as a VFX. I knew that I'm gonna work for VFX films from the when I started. When I finished my first graduation, I knew that I'm going to animate. I want to animate for films. And from that day, I knew that I have to know realistic animation. So I worked on my human animations and how to animate humans. I try to polish it as much as possible. And then I worked on creature animations. I tried to polish as much as like even I did work on lions and all, but I didn't published it because it's maybe I was not proud of it. And but I'm gonna get back to it again. And so yeah, I did polish. I was getting quite good results. But I think and it's just whatever you feel is your weakest point, and you are just you want to improve that. And if you want to boost it, I'll say that you go ahead and you take a course, like go I learned all these things in, like I work like day and night to understand all these things. But if you are taking a nice course which can focus you towards this, I think that's even better, because it'll boost you in the things which you will learn in 3 years. That thing you will learn in like 4 to 5 months. So yeah. And what do you think, Eddie?
Yeah, I agree. And also, work on your personal shots. Your personal shots will be for your demo reel, and then your demo reel will get you the experience in studios where you need to. Even if they're small studios, you get that experience. And while you're there, continue to work on personal shots like Nav here with these dinosaurs. And then you can get those shots and your personal shots, update your reel, get to the next place, and just keep doing, trusting in the process, and just keep animating. For many years after I was working as a professional, I was still working on personal shots, and I was learning from that as well. I do a lot less now because I teach. Actually, teaching is another great way to really get better at animation. Even if you're, even if you have like 4 years experience, 2 years, if you teach someone who has less experience, you're actually making yourself better, because you're looking at animation. You kind of see it different when you're helping someone animate. You're looking at it frame by frame, and you're really breaking it down. And that has really helped me become a better animator. So that's I think, yeah, that's a good one right there. But really, animation is just honing your craft and doing it over and over again. And if you don't love it, you got to learn to love it. It's just part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I hope that helps. But I think we're going to wrap it up here because it's already 2 hours. So good job, Nav. You talked for 2
Thanks, Eddie.
hours. But
No,
yeah, thank you for everything. That was very detailed and informative, and I really appreciate your time. And thank you everyone as well for attending. It was a good turnout today, almost 100 people. So appreciate everyone's time. So let's do it again very soon.
Yeah, and again, I have to say, like, thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone, because I don't consider myself as a, like, that I don't know if I have things to, like, tell you guys, but you guys took time to, you guys saw something that I can share with you guys, and you guys gave me that much, you guys gave me that much respect that you guys can take something from me, and I'm really thankful that you guys are here listening to me. And bigger than that, like, I really want to say thanks to Eddie. And because Eddie, like, after working on so many companies and after having this much experience, he's considering, like, people like me, like, who have, like, around, like, 4 or 5 years of experience, and he still thinks that I can teach, I can come here and I can talk. He's a really generous person. But I think that's what it's all about, right? Being a human, that you can learn what you don't know, and you can learn from other people, and you can respect other people. And, like, Eddie is really an inspiration for me. And so and thank you very much, Eddie, and I'm hoping to see you soon.
Anytime, mate. Yeah, no worries. And thank you again, and thanks to everyone.
Yeah.
All right. See you, everyone.
Thank you. See you, Eddie. Thank you very much, Naveen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.